we're face to face, and I'm literally like this far away from our noses touching. And I just stared at him for as long as I could. And I moved in and I gave him a hug. You're never in balance. You're never balanced. If you look at a ballerina who's perfectly balanced on her one single tiptoe, like she's doing this, right? She's going back and forth. When we can take care of the golden goose, then we can continue to lay golden eggs forever.
Hello and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. I am Kurt Luidhardt, your host and co-founder of the Prosper Group, an agency that's helped raise over $500 million and helped elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 U.S. senators, 15 governors, and 1 president. And now, in addition to helping political candidates get elected, we're helping your business get elected by answering this question: what if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a lucrative and engaged audience we call Liberty Spenders? Liberty Spenders are 76.5 million people, and they're motivated to buy from businesses and brands that align with their values. If you want to learn more, you can get access to our new best-selling book at libertyspenders.com/free. Our guest today is Andrew Anderson, and we're thrilled to welcome him to Liberty Spenders. He's a dynamic force and internationally best-selling author of Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. He's a keynote speaker, master teacher, and certified life transformation and business productivity coach. As a master practitioner of mental emotional release therapy and neuro-linguistic programming, he's empowered some of the nation's top leaders and hundreds of clients to shatter limiting beliefs, transform their lives and businesses, and embrace true freedom. Andrew's driven by a powerful mission to inspire others to live with greater spiritual strength and design a life of purpose. And he's here to share those insights. I'm pumped to have you, Andrew. We met at a mastermind in, was it October last year?
Yeah.
And it's been a delight to know you and also to read your book. And just pumped to have you on the show.
Well, I'm grateful to be with you and with your tribe. You attract good people. So I like hanging out with good people, Kurt.
Well, I feel like everybody I meet recently is from Idaho, so I don't know if there's some giant sucking sound that's pulling people I should be listening for that's pulling people into Idaho. But between you and Stingray, who I mentioned, who we talked about a little bit before the show, but the great Andrew Crapuchettes is in Idaho. There is must be bursting with great entrepreneurs there these days.
No, it's terrible. Nobody should ever come here. Everything you hear isn't true. So yeah, it's one of the worst states in the country.
Well, you must be the only person who's thinking that these days. Idaho and Arizona seem to be hot. Everybody I meet has moved there or lives there.
That's just what I say, so we can make Boise no longer the number one fastest growing, most attracted city in America.
Yeah. Well, they're all coming to live in a great place. And I know that perhaps that growth has really helped you work with a lot of unique and amazing people to help them break through their limiting beliefs and live a more fulfilling life. I thought we might start. Maybe there's a story of a client, even if you can't share who they were, that you helped, who was dealing with a major mental block and helped them overcome it to achieve something truly extraordinary.
Yeah, I'm always happy to share great success stories. Let's talk about, we'll call him Jake. Jake and I met at an event and learned a little bit about what I do. And he's like, I think I'm your ideal candidate. I think you need to help me. And he had a thriving business as an entrepreneur. He'd done about $1 million that year before, and he had a wife and a daughter. And from the outside looking in, everyone would have thought this guy was just like at the top of his game. And that's what we see on social media, right? And on podcasts. But when you open the doors and look behind the curtains and see what's really going on, he wasn't keeping any of that money. He only profited about $6,000 that year. and his marriage was on the brinks of divorce, and he was using marijuana to self-medicate in a not healthy way. He was addicted to pornography, lost his faith in God, and he was trying to go to all these events and meet people and just try to make more money to solve the problems that money can't solve. And after we spent some time together, just a matter of 2 months, he had overcome the marijuana and pornography troubles. He got back to a place where he and his wife were healthy and wanting to have another child together. And he doubled his revenue in the first month, which is what happens. Our business grows to the extent that we do. And yet we all have these blocks. We have things that just, they haunt us, and most people don't know what they are, and we don't know what to do with them. But when we're vulnerable and have the right help, we can overcome anything. So I love Jake. He's a good.
Well, I think the highlight you're talking about, which is sort of the transformation of him personally, I like the metaphor in the book about the oak and the roots deep, 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 deep. And the idea that that's such an important factor in our success. And you mentioned, trying to get the things that he was trying to solve the problem by making more money, but that wasn't the real thing, which is a common theme, even in my own life, right? What's the first step, though, if you feel similar to Jake, that you would recommend to find and put together a life that feels more intentional and aligned, and maybe isn't just trying to solve it with or treat a symptom with more financial success or more health or whatever the thing is?
Brutal honesty. The first step is brutal honesty. And sometimes that's hard for us to do with ourselves. So you find someone that you trust, a friend, a business partner, spouse, just be brutally honest. When you get to that place of brutal honesty, it provides an opportunity for there to be radical authenticity with our emotions. We often try to stuff those emotions because we don't like what they're telling us, and they don't lie. So if you can get to that place of brutal honesty and then emotional authenticity, then that's a great place to start.
Makes me pause a little bit, because it's not the answer I probably would have, if you gave me a list of 10 possible answers to that. Brutal honesty. Interesting. But it rings true to me how important that is and how difficult it is to be honest with ourselves sometimes, let alone other people.
Either you can wait and be compelled to go through the humility process, like God can force us to be humble, or we can choose to be humble. And I'm sure you, like I, have learned that being compelled to be humble is painful. It sucks. And if I can choose humility by surrounding myself with people that I give permission to be brutally honest with me and let me know when I'm out of my lane and I can't see the blind spots that that they can see, then it prevents a lot of that pain. And I don't want God to have to compel me to be humble anymore in my life. That's not something I'm going for.
Yeah. Well, I've been through that before too, so I know what you mean. This idea of surrounding yourself with people you trust who can call you out on that sort of thing is something I'm interested in exploring a little bit, because as a guy, I've always felt some challenge with that. I have a lot of people I would call my friends, and who I think definitely fit the definition. People care about me and that sort of thing. But finding somebody who I'm 100% comfortable with, completely opening up and talking honestly, I think is hard. It's been hard for me, and I might be throwing you a question that I don't know that there's a great answer to. But how do you find somebody like that? Where do people go to build those kind of deep friendships?
Well, sometimes they come to you. I mean, Kurt, let's be honest. Like you and I have had some very brutally honest, emotionally authentic conversations in a coaching setting. And when you talk about the difficulty, like I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, these guys have no idea. Like, Kurt, he's a human just like the rest of us. And stuff, we all have stuff. And sometimes like God just sends them to you. I don't think it was just coincidence that we ended up in the same little group at that event that we were at in Austin. So I think if we open our eyes, we'll recognize that God does notice us. He does watch over us, but it's usually through another person that he's meeting our needs. And if we can just be listening to those people instead of waiting for some angelic messenger, maybe those angels are among us. Maybe they're just Mormons, or, at the events that we're at and in the families and neighborhoods that we've already found ourselves in.
Yeah, Chris and I often joke we want God to put messages and Christmas lights in the sky, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're talking about angelic messages. Like that's, if I were in charge of everything, that's how it all come down, right? And it doesn't work like that. It's not happened yet, I should say, for me. Maybe someday. But I think you're right. There are the people who I do count among those are people who seemingly randomly I met and connected with, and people of faith that I respect and felt really comfortable talking to. Like almost completely different trajectory. We were, as I was reading your bio and we were getting ready for this, I am moderately familiar with some of the terms like neuro-linguistic programming, because I've been to a Tony Robbins event and it's something that Tony talks about. The MER therapy, I am not. But these are tools that you employ, and I think it'd probably be interesting to people to understand those a little better. Maybe it was best done through an example. What's an example of how something like NLP or MER works and serves people?
Yeah, so I could get really technical on what NLP is, but let's just call it a pattern interrupt. You flip a switch, and depending on which way you're flipping, you're interrupting a pattern of electricity. So you're either allowing the electricity to flow and provide power to the source of light, or you're breaking that pattern. Like there's the circuit is closed, right? And so in NLP, what we do is we have proven techniques of success. It's literally a science. It's neuroscience, a science of success of how you can interrupt people's patterns. Can I give you an example of how I did that today?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So about 80% of the people I work with are over Zoom.
Yeah.
And then 20% will come here, travel to Boise, or they live in Boise. And so when I get a 20%er, I'm really excited because you can do different things in person. So this gentleman was sitting here in my office today, and I could just feel a lot of resistance, but also a lot of desire to get past the stuff that he didn't even know was in his way. This guy has owned a business. He's a franchisor for 16 years. He's doing fine. He's got this young family of 2 kids, but he's going through hell. He doesn't want to go to work anymore. Money isn't doing it. He's in this place where he's always having to fight. Like he played football. He went to the army. He's Italian. Like all of this like fighting spirit. And I said, "Hey, stand up." And he stood up, and I got right in his face. Now I'm only like 5'8 3/4, maybe a $145 on a sopping wet day. I'm a little guy. And he was a few inches taller than me, and I got as close as I could, right in his face. And I had the most serious, intense look I could possibly muster in that moment. And if you were watching, you were probably thinking, Andrew is going to get his butt kicked right now. Like he's going to get punched in the face. And you could have cut that tension with a knife. It was as real as anything you've ever seen in a movie, but more because it was real. And we're face to face, and I'm literally like this far away from our noses touching. And I just stared at him for as long as I could. And I moved in and I gave him a hug. And I just held him. Guy bigger than me, I just held him and I hugged him. And he had one arm around me, like guy hug style, because he wasn't ready to do the full 2-arm embrace. And I just held him. And I was just pouring in love and praying and just like giving him all the good juju that I had. And I stepped back and I looked at him and I said his name. Let's call him Peter. I said, Peter. I said, nobody's trying to fight you. And then he just broke down. And he sat in that chair and he just had this realization. He doesn't have to fight anymore. There's nothing to fight. In fact, the only fight that he's really been engaged in is with himself. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I couldn't tell you that I've ever done that with anyone before. Coached over 800 people. I've never done that before. I don't even know where it came from. It's not an NLP strategy tool belt thing that they teach you in some training. I just had the thought and I acted on it, and we interrupted a pattern, which is a pattern of I'm always fighting someone, including myself. And we gave him permission to stop fighting. And then the walls came down. And he felt free. That's one very recent example of NLP in action. A pattern interrupt.
Yeah, I always found that really powerful when Tony talked about it. I recognize it in my own life, the idea that there's almost, there's scripts that I've created. And, he would talk about, well, if you want to create lasting change, one of his theories is you've got to learn how to interrupt your patterns. And so that's a very powerful example. It also reminds me of some of Tony's stories he tells in that CD series of some stuff he did to help interrupt people's patterns. Very powerful.
And sometimes it's the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client that I get on a call with her and I just sit here. I'm quiet. And she's like, what? I said, nothing. And we just hold that quiet space because she likes to talk and she's a doer. She takes action. And she's like, what am I supposed to do when you do that? I said, nothing. And so I'm interrupting her pattern of we start going, we start talking, we start going through stuff. It's just silence. Silence can be a pattern interrupt for someone that doesn't have a lot of quiet in their life.
Maybe that's a common thing. I thought if you've worked with over 800 people, probably a lot of them folks who were very successful, at least outwardly, is there a common challenge you're seeing with people who are kind of these high achievers, and something that you see over and over again that's a good lesson for somebody listening?
Absolutely. And I'm going to answer a question that you asked earlier. You said, okay, you do this NLP stuff, and then there's also this mental and emotional release, this MER stuff. So I'm going to bridge that. I'm going to answer that as I talk to you about these high achievers. What I did with this gentleman created pattern interrupt and a place of trust that he's never experienced with another coach before, or a therapist or a counselor or a pastor or whatever. It's different. And when you can show up differently for someone in a very authentic way, then there's nothing to hide. I almost fought him and then I hugged him. And so we get to this place of trust, and it prepares us to do the work that we're going to do, this mental and emotional release work that he's going to start reading the book, and then we're going to get back together next week and he's going to tell me if he wants to do it or not. And here's what high achievers are really, really good at. High achievers are really good at controlling their emotions. They don't let things get to them. They don't take things personally, right? They're driven. They're an executive. They're leaders. They charge forward. They use bad things as a catalyst for them to do good and create good. But while they're doing that, it's like layer upon layer, decade after decade, after century of Mount St. Helens. And while from the outside looking in, you think, wow, they've got it all together, right? They've got a lot of stuff on top of their stuff in terms of accolades and achievements and awards and net worth and all of that stuff. In reality, they're like everyone else on the playground, kind of insecure and trying to figure out how to make it in this world. And so, what I'm going to be able to do with him is we're going to be able to let all those guards, everything, we're going to let it all go down. He's going to be real with me, brutally honest, emotionally authentic, so we can get back to a place of mental objectivity, making decisions objectively rather than moving away from the fears that we have, trying to prove something, like getting to a place where we can let go of any beliefs and emotions that have unconsciously been there that we've been trying to hide or run away from, and just like learn from them, let them go, and begin to make choices based on what's real rather than all these perceived things we're trying to prove or fears we're trying to overcome. That's what I see in the achievers that I get to coach and work with.
Hey, business owners, did you know there's 76.5 million faith-based and conservative consumers that are looking to support brands that align with their values?
That's a $5 trillion opportunity, and if you're not tapping into it, you're leaving money on the table. Our new book, Liberty Spenders, is your ultimate guide to reaching this influential audience using conviction-driven marketing.
That's right. We break down real-world strategies that successful brands are using right now to connect with this audience authentically, build trust, and drive long-term business growth.
So if you're truly serious about standing out in today's crowded market, grab your copy today on Amazon or visit libertyspenders.com. And don't miss out on this revolutionary strategy called conviction-driven marketing. I also noticed that, and I like this book, The One Thing, and it sounds like that's something that you get into with folks too. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Color. I have a signed copy.
Oh, nice. And I found that so profound yet so simple, right? The idea that there's really focusing on prioritizing what matters most. But I also find it somewhat challenging. It's like I don't know if it's just a high achiever disease. I have a hard time. That just seems too simple sometimes, right? Just do the one thing. Is that, how do you help people, figure out those key priorities and focus on those things? What's the secret to staying focused on that one thing?
Well, I give them what they want, and then I help them understand what they need. A lot of times people hire me because they want more success, they want more achievement, they want to make more money. I'm like, okay, I can help you with that. And so the way that we do that is we like that. Sometimes you give them what they think they want, and you're in the right to give them what they need. And here's what everybody needs. This is no secret. Every business, every marriage, every family, every church, every organization, community, neighborhood, you name it, right, is only going to grow to the extent of the individual. As entrepreneurs and executives, that business will only grow to the extent that the founder is growing.
Mm.
And so when we can make that single person, the husband, the wife, the father, the mother, the founder, the director, like whoever's leading, if we can help them understand that the greatest thing that they can do for those that they are serving is grow themselves, which sounds so counterproductive because they got into whatever they're doing from a selfless place of service, and they find the greatest joy in serving and giving to others. But when we can flip that around and say, once we take care of the golden goose, the Aesop fable talks about, right? Stephen Covey talked about in 7 Habits. I share the story again in my book. When we can take care of the golden goose, then we can continue to lay golden eggs forever.
And I think that gets into some, this question of, sort of related to this question of balance, the desires we have in work, the success, the more money we want to make, but also our personal life. We want to have a good marriage and be happy people, and can sometimes feel at odds with each other. If I put in extra time at work and make more money. My kids are going to get less of me. My marriage will suffer. And so we feel torn, sometimes between that kind of professional ambition and personal values. And how do you advise people to get those things in alignment?
Yeah, that's such a great question. In Gary's book, The One Thing, Gary and Jay, by the way, Jay Papasan writes everything with Gary, and his name's on the front. So I always want to give credit to Jay because he's a good person. I was actually a certified One Thing coach for a while, and Jay runs that coaching company they have. And so Gary says in the book, Gary and Jay, they say that balance is bunk. And they teach this principle of you're never in balance. You're never balanced. If you look at a ballerina who's perfectly balanced on her one single tiptoe, like she's doing this, right? She's going back and forth. And when you look at an arrow heading towards a bullseye in slow motion, have you ever seen one of these videos, Kurt?
No, I have not. No.
You got to go Google and watch a YouTube video of an arrow in slow motion. It's going like this. It's a wave of energy and it's going back and forth. And most of the time it's off target. So is an airplane. An airplane is 99% of the time not pointed exactly where it's going. And it's making course correction. So this idea of balance is impossible. And so he introduces in the book, The One Thing, this idea of counterbalance. When I'm at work right now with you doing this, I'm not thinking about my wife and my kids or my responsibilities at church or the lawn. Or my brother or my sisters or my nieces or nephews or my parents, right? I'm here with you. I'm thinking about what do people need that I can offer right here. I'm giving it my all. And this is counterbalance. And then guess what's going to happen? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to pour into me, eat some lunch, rejuvenate so I can show up for my client. So that I can then show up and be home. But most people are trying to balance their energy and give a little bit of everything to everybody all the time, that they're never fully present, giving 100% where they're at. And the reason I believe that's the case is because they can't figure out how to do that for themselves. They're never doing what they truly want to do. They're doing what they feel like they have to do because of all this programming that's been there for so long. And then they're never happy because they're not taking care of themselves, which is the one thing. It's the one thing in your life that is in common in every place and situation. It's you. You're the common denominator. And when we put the man together, the whole world falls into place. And that's what it takes. You just got to take care of the golden goose.
And maybe, again, I just feel like your answers are kind of making this interview so much easier because one of the things I wanted to ask about was your mission of helping people live with greater spiritual strength. And, I know that'll resonate with our audience, but wanting to talk about what does that spiritual strength mean to you, and how do you guide clients to tap into it? So, that's a good caveat from what I think you just said. But
that spiritual strength it's you, right? In the book, we talk about that. You said tap. How do we tap into it? And an oak tree has what's called a taproot. And I teach this principle that before an oak tree ever sends out horizontal roots, which will go 2 to 3 times the size of the canopy. So it's got a really big, powerful, broad foundation. Before it ever sends those out, it will send a vertical root down to a source of water. And once it has that source of water and it can draw from it, then it begins to send out horizontal roots and upward shoots. Unfortunately, a lot of people today, even those that are hiring coaches and even coaches themselves, what they're doing is they're helping people grow upward or outward without going down and go deep and find that source. And that source is what I call a life mission. My life mission, as you shared earlier, is to bless my brothers and sisters who I believe to be God's children, to live a higher level of spiritual strength. And for me, spiritual strength is having that connection, knowing exactly who you are and why you're here. And when you have that, you are now free, because you're no longer trying to figure it out. And I believe that the greatest spiritual strength we have is freedom, right? Liberty. And when we know who we are and why we're here, then we are now free to live our life accordingly instead of trying to search for things that are trying to make us happy. So that's what it means to me to be spiritually strong, is to have that freedom, knowing who you are and then getting to choose how you bring those gifts and talents out into service to humanity.
Yeah, you mentioned in that answer about a life purpose, life mission statement, and I've heard that before, and even having done like Tony's Date with Destiny, that's part of the process. You write kind of a mission statement, and I've always kind of struggled to get that right in a way that felt super right. Tony has a framework that you go through, and I would use it and feel good about it. How do you approach the concept of a life mission statement, and
Yeah.
how do you help it to be an authentic thing
Sure.
for your clients?
So one of the things that is a challenge for people when they're feeling like it's not quite right, I don't quite have, it's not quite authentic, it's not really me, like you've shared, is let's imagine this taproot that an oak little seed is sending downward, and I want you to imagine that it hits a steel plate.
Mhm.
And that steel plate that most people have as they walk away from Dates with Destiny and other great masterminds and retreats and programs with incredibly well-meaning and inspired coaches and gurus and motivational speakers, is they're not able to remove that steel plate. And so people leave those events like, yeah, I mean, it was really good. It worked for a lot of people, but I don't know. I don't know if I just need to try something else, or if there's just something inherently wrong with me. And this is where I come in and we do the mental and emotional release work. What is that steel plate? What is that decision that you made at some point in your life, probably when you were a young child, that became absolute truth? And you've been living a life of deception ever since then. Just like Adam and Eve were deceived. We've all been deceived. And we hold on to things that aren't serving us. And until we can remove that steel plate, most people aren't able to fully resonate with a life mission and purpose because of that blockage. So that's what honestly differentiates me from the other 100 coaches that you're going to meet that say that they're going to change your life.
Well, powerful. And again, as a slight caveat, I know this because we've talked about this before, and I feel like we could probably do a podcast episode on this alone. You're a father of 7 kids. I have 2, and I think I need a team of people to support me. And so you're a father of 7. You've got a deep commitment to family and community. You're helping a lot of clients, maybe even from your own life. How are you personally sort of balancing? And you talked about balancing might be a little bit of a misnomer there.
Counterbalancing, yes.
Yeah, counterbalancing that, the family life, the spiritual vision, working with your clients and customers, and being involved in your church. How do you do that in your life?
Yeah, it all comes back to the one thing. My mission in life is to bless my brothers and sisters, to live a higher level of spiritual strength. And sometimes that's my daughter on a weekend trip down to Lagoon Amusement Park in Utah, 4 hours, 5 hours away from my house, and spending one-on-one time with her and taking her to grandma and grandpa's after so we can ride horses with her cousins. And sometimes that's me pouring into Kurt and Kristen. And sometimes it's me going with my dad and watching my daughter play softball. And if you have that sole single purpose, like Jesus did, always doing his Father's will, if you know exactly why you're here and what your purpose is, then the how will figure itself out. I don't think Jesus walked around and was like, am I balancing my life? Right? Am I giving appropriate time and attention to my mom? I've been away for a while. You show up and you hit what's in front of you, and you do it with everything you have. And sometimes you swing and you miss and you foul ball and people get hurt, and it's okay. Because they understand your intention and your desires. And my relationships are not perfect with all of my children. Right? I've been married and divorced, right? There's a whole big messy conversation that happens there with my 3 daughters and their mom, and Uh, I have a neighbor that I try to talk to as little as possible. Like I'm not this cookie cutter, suburbia, Christian that's just everything's awesome. Like it's tough, but we show up, we have that life mission, and it helps us direct every single decision that we make in our life so that it's easier.
Yeah. Well, good advice to take to heart. But we're coming to the end of our time together, and we like to give everyone a chance to answer the same 3 questions. So we do our quick lightning round. So we like to do 3 questions with everybody, 90 seconds each, although there's not a real timer and there's no buzzer. So the accountability is pretty low on our lightning round. But we like to ask people what legacy they'd like to leave behind. I think you've probably answered this 3 times already, but I'll give you a chance to say it again. What legacy do you hope to leave behind with your work?
My legacy comes down to 3 words. These are my top 3 values in my life, and it's love, it's freedom, and passion. I just want to love like my father and mother have loved me and their grandkids. I want to do things that provide freedom and allow people to grow into who they were meant to be. And I want to do it in a way of passion where no one ever doubts if I'm all in or not. And if I'm not all in and it doesn't provide freedom and it's not from a place of love, then I say no to those things. So I want my legacy to be those 3 values: love, freedom, and passion.
Great. And I wanted to also see what's something maybe that's captured your attention lately that's kind of off topic. Maybe you've got a cool hobby, or you've read a great book lately, or want to advocate for your favorite sports team. What's captured your attention lately?
I've only ever played 9 holes of golf once. And I was 18 years old, and tomorrow is my 40th birthday. So it's been a while. And I've always said that I don't like golf. But I started watching these Netflix documentaries about different sports leagues and teams. And I've been watching this documentary on these PGA players. And I'm like fascinated with who they are and their lives. And they are breaking all the stereotypes that I had about golf and golfers. And so that is something that I've become very passionate about as of late, learning about these PGA gentlemen.
You're like me. Everybody says, well, you should golf. Golf is such a great place to do business. You can get so much done on the golf course. I could probably count on one hand, maybe 1.5, the amount of times I've gone out. And I don't know if it's just the fact that to do 18 holes is going to take me all day or whatever. I've never gotten into it either. Maybe I should. And maybe you'll next time we talk, you'll be telling me about how you have been enjoying time on the course.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Well, and then I wanted to leave 90 seconds to make just perhaps I'll let you guide it. Maybe you want to do a quick, why should somebody read your book? Maybe it can be what's the right kind of person, or why would somebody coach with you? Give a 90-second gratuitous marketing speech for us.
Oh, wow. Sure. I'm not the coach for everyone. And I'm not trying to be. I'm not a commodity coach. I'm not 1 in 100. I'm not 1 in 1,000. I don't know what that number is. But the people that are referred to me, because my business is 99% referral, are those who know that there's more, that are never going to give up, but they're wondering, why can't I figure it out? I've read the books, hired the coaches, I've done the counseling and the therapy, I've been on my knees, I've offered the prayers, and there's something missing. And I don't know what it is, but as soon as God shows me, I will do whatever it takes. And those kinds of people enter my world, and it's not that I have a magic bullet, it's just an approach that they've never been offered before. And we get results that no one else has been able to get them, or those that refer them. And so if you're in that place and you're stuck and there's more, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, then a conversation is always worth having. And one of my favorite quotes from Susan Scott is, while no single conversation is guaranteed to change the trajectory of a career or relationship or life, any single conversation absolutely can. That's why I say yes to any single conversation with anyone that's willing.
I love it. Well, this has been great, Andrew. I think we covered a lot. We managed to get it done in 40 minutes, which I could have done another 25, I'm sure. And so I really appreciate you coming and joining us.
Kurt, thank you. And I want to thank you and Kristen again for who you are, the kinds of people you attract, what you do. I've seen it firsthand with Stingray that I care about deeply. And I know that the right people at the right time will fall into the right place for not only you guys, but for everyone that you're bringing along with you. It's a powerful group, powerful tribe, powerful following. Thank you for what you're doing.
I appreciate the sentiments. And for those of you who want to learn more about Andrew, you can get in touch with him at andrewlanderson.com. You can also go to Amazon like I did and get the book here. I think you were showing another book. Do you have a second book, this emotional?
No, this is
the
my
book.
mentor, Dr. Matt James. He wrote the book Mental and Emotional Release. And I actually want to read this before this because this is fun, but this is what people need. This is just a little bit of me and what I do and my story and client stories. But this is the meat. This is the potatoes.
Well, we'll put both of them in the show notes then, because I got this one, but I didn't get the mental and emotional release book. So I have to grab that too. So I appreciate you sharing both with us.
Welcome. Thank you, Kurt.
Yes. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. We invite you to join us in the Liberty Partnership community at libertyspenders.com. Additionally, you can learn more from our new book called Liberty Spenders, and you could get it today for free at libertyspenders.com/free. And thank you for listening. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Liberty Spenders podcast. If you're a business owner, we hope today's conversation gave you valuable insights on how to grow your business.
If you enjoyed the show, do us a favor. Hit like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. It really helps us reach more entrepreneurs and leaders like you who are ready to make an impact.
And write something flattering, because I read them all. Don't forget to grab your copy of Liberty Spenders too, available now on Amazon and at libertyspenders.com. It's packed with proven strategies to help you reach the 76.5 million consumers who are looking for brands that share their values.
We'll see you next time as we continue exploring how to grow your business with purpose and conviction.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode and the one after that.